So this is what I'm going to be working on today. As you can see, this is my storage area, although seeing as it's close to Christmas, all of the chests all look like Christmas presents with little trees on the side. But what I'm going to do is just expand this out because as I found already, this isn't a big enough storage area. I need a lot more storage than I anticipated, so I'm going to expand this out and try to maybe double or even triple the size of this. So it might take a while, but that's not the only thing I'm going to do in this episode. I need to do a couple little things, like I need some ice in order to actually build this storage area, and I also want to see if I can get a smelter done. So another thing that I've also been working on is mapping this area. So I've been doing this off screen because it takes a lot of time and it's not the most interesting thing to see. But you can see this is the map that I was working on a couple episodes ago, and here is where my base is. Now this is zoomed out to the maximum distance. Here is the little base right in here, and each segment of this is 2048 by 2048, so it is quite a big distance. So at least now I have a good idea of what my surroundings look like. It's not just deserts around here. The only problem is it doesn't show the detail very well because there's a lot of rivers in here, but they don't really show up on the map because it's taking a lot of pixels or a lot of blocks. So if there's like a river that runs through that's not half of the blocks of one block, it'll show it as green instead of showing the river. But the thing that's interesting about this was this. There's a bunch of icebergs over here, which means that I can get some more ice, hopefully some blue ice, which is useful for the storage area. So I definitely want to set up another portal in here so that it'll be easy for me to grab some for whatever I need to use some blue ice. So here I am at the icebergs, and you can see there is a lot of stuff around here. And the one thing that I also found around here, I don't know where there it is right there, is an ocean monument. You can see the guardians around there, so just want to be careful of that. So yeah, this is a good spot for me to get lots of ice and set up my nether portal. So here is some blue ice, which is what I wanted. And you want to make sure when you mine it, you actually mine it with a silk touch enchanted tool, otherwise you'll break it. So let's get as much as we can because this stuff is pretty useful. Okay, so I should put down the coordinates here. So it is 1620 by 10 ice. Ice. So I will light this up and I will go away. So what I want to do is go to my nearest nether portal, which I believe is at the desert village. And what I'm going to do is go in there, go in the nether, and build a portal in the matching coordinates in the nether hub that I have set up, or the nether tunnel, I guess. So it's easier to get the portals to match up if you do it this way than if I just go through, see where the nether portal shows up, and then have to do it from there. Okay, let's do the math on this. So it's 201.2 would be the nether coordinates. So just divide by 8. So here is my nether portal. Just to go through the really quick basics of nether portals, I did a video on this recently, so I'll do a card on the top right if I remember it, but it's pretty easy to find. So the minimum size has to be 4x5. The nether is 1/8 the size of the overworld, so take any coordinate in the overworld. You can find this by hitting F3 like this. There is the X, Y, and Z coordinates. You only need the X and Z coordinates. Y sort of matters, but not in the bigger scheme of things. So just the X and Z coordinates divided by 8, and then in the nether build a portal there. Now the best way to kind of do it is make sure that the coordinates match up exactly. If they don't match up exactly, they may not connect to the right portal. So basically I built the portal in the overworld, I came into the nether, built it in the exact same spot, and I'm going to light it, and then I'll go through, and I should be on an iceberg. Hopefully I am. And you can see they matched up perfectly. So that's pretty easy. Now I can get ice whenever I want. So I was out doing some mapping and I found this, which was a fully intact shipwreck. And I haven't come across very many shipwrecks yet, so I might as well check it out and see if there's anything interesting in here. So let's go through the basics of shipwrecks, buried treasure maps, and buried treasure. Shipwrecks generate naturally in all ocean biomes. There can be rare occasions when shipwrecks generate beached, inside icebergs, or inside underwater ravines. Shipwrecks will have sections missing or can be upside down or on its side. Depending on the parts of the shipwreck that are missing, changes the number of loot chests that can generate on a shipwreck. There are 3 different loot chests that generate on a shipwreck. A supply chest can generate at the front of a shipwreck and can contain items like a suspicious stew, leather armor, bamboo, and food items. The treasure chest generates at the upper section at the back and can contain items like ingots and nuggets. The map chest generates at the lower section at the back of the shipwreck and can contain items like empty maps, books, compass, paper, and a buried treasure map. The buried treasure map can lead you to a buried treasure chest. The map is a 512 by 512 dimensions and is different than a normal map, showing the outline of land and water with a red X where the buried treasure is. If you are greater than 1,027 blocks away from the map border, your icon will be smaller than normal, and when you move within 1,027 blocks, your icon will return to a normal size. The buried treasure will have the same X and Z coordinates in the middle of the X. The buried treasure generates in beach biomes, but can generate underwater. Okay, so the specific thing I want from this chest, and I was willing to go way out of my way, was the Heart of the Sea. The reason I want the Heart of the Sea is because it is useful for building a conduit eventually, and conduits allow you to breathe underwater. It gives you a good radius. It's probably the best way of breathing underwater in the game, so that's what I need, and also 8 nautilus shells, which probably will take me a while, but at least I have the Heart of the Sea. Time to expand the storage area, so you know what that means. Time lapse. So here I am completely done with my storage area. You can see there is a lot of chests. Half of this is actually empty, so if I need something or at least want to store something and it's above 41, I'll at least have a lot of slots to work with. And also there's enough space that I could do something in the middle of the storage area once I actually build a house around it. And over there was actually a creeper explosion. That's why that one spot looks a little weird. Now that I've done all this, I think the next thing I gotta do is get some fuel. So that means building a kelp farm. Let us go through the basics of kelp in Minecraft. It generates in most oceans, except for frozen, deep frozen, warm, and deep warm oceans, and it generates near and around seagrass. Each chunk has a 1 in 18th chance to generate a group of kelp. If a kelp block is broken, the blocks above it will drop as an item and float to the surface of the water. Kelp has to be placed in a water source block, meaning it has to be a full block of water and can be placed on any block. Kelp can grow at any light level and doesn't need sky access. For a kelp block to grow, the block above it needs to be a water source block. Bone meal can be used on kelp and will force it to grow one block. The kelp plant will have an age that ranges from 0 to 24. This can be seen by hitting F3. Each time the kelp grows one block, the age is increased by 1. When the kelp plant hits the age of 24, it will stop growing. When a kelp block is broken, the block below it will have its age randomized. This means you could grow a very tall kelp plant by breaking the top block every time it stops growing. Kelp has a 14% chance to grow each random tick. A random tick on average happens every 68 seconds, but it can vary widely. When you smelt kelp, you get dried kelp. You can eat dried kelp, although it only restores 1 hunger point. It's not a great food source unless you are at the start of a game or in dire need of food. 9 dried kelp can be crafted into 1 dried kelp block. This dried kelp block is the third most efficient fuel behind a block of coal and a bucket of lava. A dried kelp block can smelt 20 items. A bucket of lava cannot stack as a fuel in the furnace, so dried kelp blocks are the second most efficient fuel, with a 64 stack of dried kelp blocks able to smelt 1280 items. The problem with dried kelp blocks is you have to smelt kelp, then craft it together to get dried kelp blocks. This is more cumbersome than a fuel like bamboo, which is less efficient but can be placed in the furnace. So here is, why am I moving? So here is my kelp farm. So you can see right here, there's the kelp, and it's very simple, straightforward farm. There are pistons right here, there are observers over here. So basically how this works is when the kelp reaches to that point where the observer is, it fires a redstone signal behind it. There's redstone dust behind all of this, which fires the piston breaks the kelp floats up to the top, and it floats all the way down here, and there are hoppers, I believe, right here, or a water stream. I can't remember which one I placed down here, but it's pretty straightforward. You have to make sure that these blocks down here are water source blocks. So when the kelp grows up a bit, it has to be in water source blocks. So you basically have to make sure that it's a full block. You can do this by either placing water buckets, or you can also place a water bucket high up and it'll flow down, and you can see it just broke it right there. And you can place kelp in the blocks to make it water source blocks. And with the top, to get it like this, you're gonna have to put I put half slabs of cobblestone on the top of these observer blocks, and then you have to place the water streams, move the slabs, and then it creates this. So basically the kelp floats up to the top, and then it's directed over here down into the water stream. So the next thing I have to show you is how this water streams and stuff works. So you can see the water streams go from here, the kelp just drops into here and goes along here. There's a water stream here. There's a drown there for some reason, I don't know why. But it just goes over this blue ice, the sign's there, and then they go up this water stream. And because I was having a hard time just finding out where things were, I had to dig out stuff a bit. So I dug out the cactus farm a bit so I could figure out where it was exactly. And also there's this one. This is the stream that actually goes straight up into the storage system, and I have an input chest where I can just place items in it, and you can see it's just floating up. And the last thing is this. So when I was mining, I found something pretty interesting, I thought. So it's this thing right here. Here's another thing that I found was another mob spawner, a zombie spawner. And this one's a lot closer to my base. It's just in my mine. It's probably almost like right under my house that I built. So there's a zombie spawner. You can see the dungeon right here. And close to that zombie spawner is also another dungeon that has a spider spawner. They're actually connected by a cave. Now the thing that sucks about this is they're too far apart to actually be able to use them at the same time. So I think that's enough for today's episode. That stuff took a lot longer than I was expecting. And one thing I just want to mention is the reason why the time lapse looks different than when I actually recorded stuff is because I rendered them on different days, and the whole Christmas chest depends on being around Christmas, as where I rendered the time lapse on a different day. So that's why it looked weird. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and just keep watching, and I always love to hear your comments.